Oh, yeah, this is a great point. Oh, yeah. Dro ain't gonna like. Dro! 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 We're supposed to film today, bro. Dro! Dro! The NFL season starts in a month.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the Heavily Contested Podcast, the podcast where
We get to talk about the greatest human to ever walk on this planet, LeBron James.
No.
We're not talking about LeBron James?
I'm sorry about that, guys. We just had a bit of a miscommunication here. So we are doing a GOAT debate episode this time, but it's only for football. We feel like we'll save our NBA GOAT debate for a whole nother episode, so Travis is gonna have to hold off on that one.
I want to talk about LeBron, though.
Hey,
Don't you always want to talk about
You're
LeBron?
gonna have to live without LeBron for a little bit, okay?
Okay.
You okay with that?
Yeah.
All right. Glad we got that out the way. So for today's episode, as I said before, we're going to do a GOAT debate, as well as talk about NBA free agency towards the end of the video. But really, we want to focus on each position, and then we can maybe go at the end, like saying who our overall greatest of all time football player is.
Yeah, that's very debatable.
It's very debatable, and the thing is, I just want to mention is everyone seems to push it towards the quarterback being the greatest football player of all time.
I don't think it has to be a quarterback.
I don't think it has to be a quarterback either. And I think there's many guys who can make a good candidacy for.
Oh, that was a big word.
It was
bro.
not. You just put DC.
It just sounded like a big word, though.
I appreciate that. To start off our GOAT debate, Travis, we could start off with you, but we'll go with safeties.
All right, safeties. So, safeties, there's two different types of safeties. There's free safeties, who are more like ball hawks, who are in the middle of the field sometimes. And then there's hard hitters. There's a bunch of dudes that could be just hard hitters, like Cam Chancellor.
Hard hitter.
Hard hitter. You know, there's people like that. Or there's people like Ed Reed, who are in the middle of the field.
Yeah.
Now, for me, I feel like the two greatest safeties that I can actually picture and see film of and really understand is Ed Reed and Palomalu. You may think, as a Niner fan, that Ronnie Lott needs to be in the conversation.
Oh, he doesn't need to be in the conversation. He's winning the conversation. You go first.
This is what I wanted to say. For me, I'm going with the dude that just had his speech, who just got that golden jacket, with the long, luscious hair, the beautiful hair.
Oh, my God. You going?
Troy Polamalu. And why am I going with Troy Polamalu? Let me just explain for you. Because I want you to really understand why I chose him, okay?
Okay.
I don't want you to just think that this is random. So, Troy Polamalu was on the Steelers team for all of his career. He had 8 Pro Bowls, 6 all-time first-team pros. Then he won Defensive Player of the Year in 2011.
Yeah.
It's even as a great defensive player, you don't always win Defensive Player of the Year. Like Aaron Donald doesn't win it every single year, you know.
Yeah.
But he also has 2 rings. But the thing that I want to clarify for you is that Troy Polamalu didn't have as much help as some of these other players did. Like Ed Reed had Ray Lewis on his team, who was the greatest middle linebacker ever. He had him on his team the whole career. And on top of that, he had Terrell Suggs and a couple of other dudes that are great as well. But Troy Polamalu, all he had was James Harrison. James Harrison was his second greatest player on this defense.
I mean, I feel like you're underrating the whole entire defense of the Steelers. They were known more for their defense throughout their career a little bit, don't you think?
But I'm saying, though, the Steelers, they got 2 rings with the defense being known as the greatest part, but it's really just Troy Polamalu out there, and he does everything. He gets interceptions, he gets sacks.
Yeah, but the only thing I'm going to say is just because James Harrison might be the only notable player in the all-time category, maybe, even though I think there's other players that could be worth mentioning, it's again role players that work good for the defense. You know what I mean?
Sometimes that does happen.
Like just because they're not big name players does not mean they're also just pushovers, and it's only Polamalu and James Harrison. So I think you got to factor in the smaller guys, because sometimes they work with that system well.
So you think that it's not Troy Polamalu?
I think it's okay. So first of all, I said it already. It's Ronnie Lott, and I'll get to that in a second. But between Polamalu and Ed Reed, if you want to go with that versus, I got Ed Reed. Just because I think he was more of a guy that you had to game plan against, and I've heard guys like Peyton Manning and Tom Brady talk about how hard it was to game plan against a guy like Ed Reed because of how he affects the passing game. I think Polamalu definitely, being the hard hitter that he is, and obviously on the stat sheet he has, on the stat sheet, he has a little bit more tackles than Ed Reed. He has 770. Ed Reed has 643.
Yeah.
So obviously, I mean, it shows where Polamalu's game is at, and
he's more in the box.
More in the box. Sometimes he affects the run game, and he's a hard hitter when a wide receiver is coming across the middle. But I feel like Ed Reed, what he does as a ball hawk, made him more of a threat to the passing game and quarterbacks, and they had the game plan for him. And Ed Reed still wasn't no pushover either when it came to hitting.
He still hit.
Yeah,
he has that crazy punt.
I just think if you want to compare, Polamalu is obviously better at, stopping the run and everything compared to Ed Reed, but I also think it's not that big of a difference. Well, I think there's a bigger difference when it comes to Ed Reed being a ball hawk, because Ed Reed has 64 interceptions in his career. Polamalu has 32.
That is true.
So I think there's a bit of a gap. But, again, you want to bring stats into this. And let's go back to the all-time great Ronnie Lott, who you showed. Troy Polamalu has 2 Super Bowl rings. Ed Reed has 1. Ronnie Lott has 4. Ronnie Lott also has 1,146 tackles in his career. More than Troy Polamalu by a mile. Definitely more than Ed Reed. And to compare him as a ball hawk to Ed Reed, Ronnie Lott has 63 interceptions, only 1 behind Ed Reed. So Ronnie Lott was an incredible tackler. He was everywhere on the field, and he was still just as good of a ball hawk as Ed Reed.
I just knew you were gonna say it was Ronnie Lott. I just knew you were gonna say that.
Does it?
But for me, as a defense, when you look at the defense, for me, I feel like in fantasy, in defense, you don't usually get one player. You get the whole defense.
Just want to let the vibe be you, be the vibe. I just want to let everyone know about.
I got a reminder on my laptop, but pretty much for a defense, it's not just about one player. So if you have a bunch of different players that play well, it can help you out, so you can get better stats. Like Ronnie Lott had so many different weapons on the Niners defense and on offense. Jerry Rice.
Yes, of
and
course.
Joe Montana.
But you also can't deny,
I understand.
Because here's the thing. Yes, Ronnie Lott had players on his defense. The Niners did have some historic defenses. But you also can't discredit that he was one of the reasons why that defense was so ferocious in the first place.
I understand.
Because of what Ronnie Lott was doing in the backfield. He's considered our greatest defender as a Niner.
Yeah.
And deservingly so. And I think it shouldn't be a question that he's the best safety of all time. Just even with the stats show, and then even if you look on the film and what the footage shows of Ronnie Lott. Ronnie Lott was a baller, and I loved his mentality because he was the type of guy who literally cut his own finger off just so he could play another football game.
And me and Ronnie Lott share the same broken finger. You can see it. But Ronnie Lott, I definitely give him his credit. He's definitely an all-time historic player. If he's not number 3, I'll give him number 2 for safeties. I can't give him number 1 though. I gotta go with Troy Polamalu. I just love his hair too much. Like his hair just gotta give it to me, you know?
Okay, well,
like he's such a beautiful person.
Okay.
That's how I feel, bro.
So obviously Travis's decision is based a little more off of just football itself. We're gonna switch on to running backs now. Again, I'll let you start off with that one.
Okay.
But this is an interesting one.
This one, so running backs is very difficult because as you see, now that we've seen a bunch of different running backs come into the league, we've slowly realized that running backs are sort of an equation. Good O-linemen good passing offense equals great running back. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So if you have a threat on the pass and you have a great O-line to block for you, the running back most of the time is going to have a good season. So there's people like, for me, I feel like Ezekiel Elliott, he hasn't shown me that he's different. Because when last year, when he lost Dak Prescott, we seen a totally different Ezekiel Elliott. He wasn't as much of a threat anymore. Mm-hmm. He wasn't doing well. And he had a great O-line. So that's how I feel about it. But this is why I say that. I think that some people like to say Emmitt Smith because he's so high up on there.
Well, Emmitt Smith leads in most rushing touchdowns and most rushing yards.
Yeah.
So if you look at the stat sheets, it would say Emmitt Smith.
So yeah, that's what a lot of people like to say just because of stats.
But I'll be honest though, actually, I think I don't even see Emmitt Smith in a lot of people's top 3, which I have to agree with.
Yeah. So the reason why I'm just bringing him up just to get him out of there.
Yeah.
So Emmitt Smith, he won MVP in 1993.
Yeah.
So he was a great player, but Emmitt Smith for most of his career had 3 Pro Bowl linemen. Just linemen. He had 3 of them. Now, who I think the greatest of all time is for running backs, I'm going with Barry Sanders. Why I'm going with Barry Sanders is because this is the craziest thing. When I was doing the research, I was like, wow. He came in the league, I believe, 1989. He got in the Pro Bowl every single year he was in the league for 10 years straight. I don't know why he left the league. I couldn't find that. But
yeah, it's more
10 years he was in the league, and 10 years he was in the Pro Bowl. So he was in his prime when he got in the league and left in his prime. And he only had 1 Pro Bowl lineman. No, he didn't even have it. Yeah, he did. It was his left tackle. And he averaged 5 yards per carry. So if you gave him the ball twice, you were getting the first down every time.
Yeah.
That's why I got to go with Barry Sanders.
I know I'm going to disappoint. I don't know if you saw, my dad has a Walter Payton poster. He's a big Walter Payton fan. So because of that, I feel like I have to go Barry Sanders as well.
Okay. I
mean, looking at the stats, of course, it shows Emmitt Smith. I also had to mention Jim Brown. I think is in my top 3. Like if I was to make a top 3, it'd be Barry Sanders, Walter,
He's just real
and
old.
Jim.
How old is Jim Brown?
Well, he played back in 1957. But just because he's old doesn't mean you can't discredit him.
He played in 1957.
Well, you have to scale players though. You got to think about it because
he wasn't born in 1957.
No.
He played.
But you got to think about this. What Jim Brown was doing back then in 1957 with the game being so different. Health-wise, training-wise.
1957?
Okay, Travis, we get it. 1957. But, so you know what I mean, though? Like, 1957, he,
They didn't even have face masks.
Exactly, though. So, the way the game was different, and he still played at that level. So, you almost have to scale, what would he do in today's game with the modern health and science?
He was running with a runny nose, bloody nose all the time. Probably lost a couple teeth.
Didn't care, right? But, Jim Brown, so he was a dog. He was he was on another level, especially compared to back in those days.
Yeah.
So I have to give him his credit. The only reason I don't put him over Barry Sanders is because I feel like Barry Sanders has pretty much the same exact stats as everyone here on this list. The biggest stat, though, is that he's played significantly less years. You have to give him credit for that. I believe, too. Let me see. Yeah, it says Barry Sanders was 4th all-time in rushing yards.
That's so crazy.
Surpassed by Frank Gore just a couple years ago.
But Frank Gore played for how many years?
Well, yeah, and then we know how many years Frank Gore's racked up.
Yeah, so it's a huge difference.
It's a huge thing that Barry Sanders was that close to Walter Payton despite playing significantly less years than him. You know what I mean? And, of course, Emmitt Smith seems to be a little out of the question, but I think had Barry Sanders played, Emmitt Smith would not have caught him either.
Yeah.
I just have to put Barry Sanders there because I don't think the stats tell the whole story with that one.
No, yeah. It's also, you just got to, for a lot of running backs, you got to just watch the tape. You got to see who jukes better, who's faster, and who can hurdle the best, and who basically can score you a touchdown without even getting blocked for it.
Well, yeah, I think the one thing you have to say about Barry Sanders is he definitely, out of all the running backs, I'd say he's the best at any run play could be a touchdown for him because of
he got a good highlight tape.
Because of his speed, his athleticism.
Yeah.
He was definitely more of a like a bolt of lightning.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like
so you know who we got to bring up for that reason, right? As a Raiders fan, you know who I have to bring up, right?
Oh, you're gonna bring up
Bo Jackson.
Okay.
Bo Jackson. No, let me say this. I just have to say this really quickly. You know, if Bo Jackson chose to only play football, he would be the best running back of all time.
Okay, I just want to say one thing about that. First of all, Bo Jackson is a great athlete. It is a shame that he got hurt so early in his career.
Mm-hmm.
But the only thing I say difference between even him and Barry Sanders is that Barry Sanders at least accumulated 10 seasons. How many seasons did Bo Jackson actually
I think he played 3 years.
3 years. So he didn't have enough to rack up numbers. He was good in those 3 years, but you also can't judge off of 3 years. 10 years is maybe a little more. You could be a little more lenient with that because, 10 years throughout a career, that's a pretty solid career already.
I think he
Bo Jackson but here's the thing, like, we don't know what Bo Jackson would have done having still gone throughout. You know what I mean? Only 3 years playing. And he also was playing baseball at the same time, too, so who knows how his body would have been worn out by then. So I do think Bo Jackson is an all-time great talent.
Talent-wise, I think he's the greatest running back ever.
I can't do this whole what if he could have been the best ever if he did.
There's stories out there.
There's just not enough evidence.
Yeah. But I think there's stories out there that he ran like a 4.19 or 4.20 flat. So he would have the fastest 40 of all time.
Rumors.
Yeah, but back then they didn't run the 40, I guess. So
exactly. So I mean, I like trying to put Bo Jackson in there, but no, I just can't put him in an all-time conversation just because of.
I understand. I have to bring him up as a Raiders fan. I gotta say.
Cornerbacks.
Okay.
I'm gonna switch it up.
You want me to go first?
Yeah, you go again on that
all
one.
Right.
I'm curious to hear.
Now this is the thing for quarterbacks. He's been in our generation. He's been in the generation before that and the generation before that. Tom Brady has 7 rings now.
Yeah.
7 rings. He has 2 Hall of Fame careers, maybe even 3. But this is the biggest argument I have for Tom Brady. Tom Brady has been in a great system all the time, and he's also had a great team with him. He played with Rodney Harrison, Ted Bruschi, Randy Moss, Gronk, and Darrelle Revis.
Yes.
They all came to his team. Like Randy Moss and Darrelle Revis, they came to his team after they were already established. And he won a Super Bowl with Randy Moss and Darrelle Revis.
Yeah.
So that's to point out the fact, on top of that, with the Buccaneers, he came to a team that all they needed was a quarterback.
No,
and he got a ring.
Again, we mentioned it earlier in an earlier episode, but you saw what Tampa Bay did when they got him. They put people around him, because I think everyone gives a lot of credit to Brady, which he should. I mean, he should get credit. It's not like he shouldn't get credit at all, but he gets so much like he's the only reason they won. But it really, to be honest, they just needed a quarterback that wouldn't throw 3 interceptions a game like Jameis Winston, right?
Yeah.
They just needed a guy who could be efficient with the ball, not do too much with it. I mean, you see in the first 2 playoff games against New Orleans, he didn't play too well at all. He was lucky his defense put him in positions in the goal line to really, because the Bucs did not manufacture a drive that entire game versus the Saints, which is incredible to think about. But they never actually manufactured a touchdown drive from their side of the field to theirs, to the Saints. The Saints kept throwing interceptions. Drew Brees, obviously, he got old. His arm got tired, which we saw coming. And, he really, it showed in that final game. The Bucs defense being the Bucs defense, put them in a box, and they set up their offense greatly, with field position. So, again, a lot of credit to Brady, but he shouldn't get all the credit like everyone says he should.
Yeah.
What I will say is what he brings from a leadership standpoint and what he brings.
Yeah, his leadership is amazing.
From an efficiency standpoint. But you go ahead. I mean, I want to hear who you have as yours.
Okay, so this is the thing. Tom Brady is my GOAT.
So Tom Brady is your GOAT.
He is my GOAT. But the only reason that I just want to bring that up is just to say, if I'm taking away the fact that he had those great players, you still have to remember the Patriots days where his best receiver was Julian Edelman when Gronk was hurt. He was like 60% most of the time. Mm-hmm. His best receiver was Julian Edelman and Eric Decker, I think his name is.
No, you're thinking Danny Amendola, maybe?
Danny Amendola. Yeah, Danny Amendola. So I just, even though he's had some great defenses, in order for him to score, that's just got to be mainly on him. He hasn't had a great running back most of the time. James White and Sony Michel.
Those are the most
those are the most notable running backs he's had in recent time, and he's still been able to get them to the Super Bowl and win them a Super Bowl. Okay. Yes, defense wins championships, but at the same time, you need to be able to score.
The one thing I'm going to say against that is, but here's the thing. I think you're also underrating how good Edelman and Amendola are. Also, I think I have to say, it's not like Brady hasn't had weapons throughout his career. He also had one of the best receivers of all time in Randy Moss with him. He had who won Super Bowl MVP Deion Branch back in when he won his third Super Bowl against the Eagles. So he's had guys. It's not like he hasn't had guys. And again, too, when you have that good of a defense, he's had a top 10 defense every single year of his career.
Even against
being with Bill Belichick, and also offensively being in a great system offensively. Belichick. You know what I mean? Being in that Belichick system. And then he switches to Arians, and maybe Arians' system is not as good as the Patriots, but then what they brought instead was more weapons. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Brady has to be given his credit, though. But I can't put him over Aaron Rodgers. Yeah. Surprise, surprise, surprise. I went with Aaron Rodgers. Again.
Wait. How many rings does Aaron Rodgers have?
1. Again, ring debates, obviously, ring doesn't matter. You could say with basketball debates, with anything, it shouldn't be the main story, right? Would you agree to that?
I would agree. It's not the main story.
It shouldn't be. So
now I will agree with you on this. Talent-wise, Tom Brady is not even in the top 100. But
of quarterback,
Aaron Rodgers can actually be in that conversation. So
I think arm talent-wise, there's no one who does it better than Aaron Rodgers.
Okay.
No one throws the football better than Aaron Rodgers.
Patrick Mahomes does it?
Well, that is to be seen how long he could sustain that through a career. But
all right.
Of course, Patrick Mahomes is the only guy that's closest to Aaron Rodgers. But the fact that Mahomes has a lot to live up to, because you got to remember what Aaron Rodgers did. The only reason I say Aaron Rodgers, first of all, the stats are there and his career is still going. He was the fastest guy to get to, I think, 300 passing touchdowns, and the fastest to get to 400 passing touchdowns. So stat-wise, he's the fastest too. And he also didn't play the first 3 years of his career.
Yep, he was the backup.
Rodgers was the backup too far. He had to develop under him. But I know it was hard because Brady went into Green Bay and he played well to beat Rodgers. And I was really right there. I was about to give up on my Rodgers argument. But I also saw that game that Brady threw 3 interceptions and still won the game.
That is true. That is true. That's what I was saying.
If you're able to throw 3 interceptions in a game and still win,
you should then know.
That's a lot. It's a lot of credit to the other players because, man, like he was able to get away with a lot of mistakes there.
Yeah.
Rodgers was never had that room.
Never. He can't have 3 interceptions in a game. No, he's gonna lose.
He's gonna lose. Like we saw that against Seattle when he had the Legion of Boom, and even then they still had a lead. And they still choked it. Russell Wilson threw 5 interceptions that game and was still able to
5 interceptions
and was still got the win. Which shows credit to a good defense, of course. Wow. You know, that Legion of Boom is a historically great defense. So again, Aaron Rodgers, he only had a top 10 defense twice now in his career. I believe this past defense was also top 10, but the biggest notable one was 2010, back when he had Charles Woodson, you had Clay Matthews. So he had guys on that defense, and of course, what do? They win the Super Bowl. They had one of the great playoff runs from a 6 seed, taking it all the way to the Super Bowl. And Rodgers, I just don't think anyone can make the throws that if you want to compare, Rodgers can make throws that Brady can't. Brady can't make throws that Rodgers also can't make.
Yeah, I agree with that.
like Rodgers out the pocket, what he does as mobility-wise, and what
talented.
he does in the pocket with pressure.
That's why it's not always just about stats. Like you
It's
actually
not.
have to watch and see who actually is making great plays.
Well, exactly. And stats don't tell the whole story. In the end, Rodgers may be lower him in the all-time right now, but Rodgers is also younger than him
I understand.
by 6 years, I believe, because Brady's
Yeah.
43, Rodgers is 37.
Yeah. I also think that Aaron Rodgers, if he doesn't win a Super Bowl this year, I don't think he's coming back. So I feel like he's lost his love for football, so I can't see him really achieving much more.
I could agree to that, but I think if he switches, change of scenery to a little more competent front office, I think he might be a little more,
He does have the potential.
It might bring his excitement back to football a little bit. Because that's the thing, too. You want to talk about being done dirty. They haven't drafted a receiver in the first round throughout his whole entire career.
Yeah, that's so disrespectful.
They didn't do anything to really help Rodgers throughout his career. And you could see through many of the games, playoff runs that he had. Most notably, some of the biggest ones with 2015 and 2016, where he took the Packers to the divisional round, and they almost beat the Cardinals. He had this incredible Hail Mary. And what happens on the first play of overtime? Larry Fitzgerald takes it 80 yards down the field and puts them within the 5
First of all,
yard line.
Larry Fitzgerald taking it 80 yards down the field just shows his defense ain't that good.
No, it's not.
Larry Fitzgerald 80
if
yards
Larry
down
Fitzgerald is wide open, you did something wrong.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? So, like, that's one. 2016, he took this injured defense. He didn't have Jordy Nelson throughout most of his playoff run either.
Jordy Nelson
was hurt. So, he didn't have, he didn't have help. 2016, that team should not have had any business making it to the NFC Championship game. And we saw why, because when Aaron Rodgers broke his collarbone the next season, we saw what happened to that Packers team.
Yeah.
And we saw that they really weren't as good as...
So Devontae Adams is his best receiver?
Funny enough, I put Greg Jennings over him. I think
put Greg Jennings? Because of his Madden video? when he broke his leg.
Sharp.
Oh, yeah. Go, Greg.
But no. Only because I think all-time Devontae is definitely going to be better than him. But I think as far as a duo, credit has to be given to what they were doing together.
Yeah. But talent-wise, I definitely don't think that Greg Jennings is on the same level as Devontae Adams.
Of course not. Again, sometimes the best receiver that you had is more just based. So, like, Brady's best receiver is not Moss. It's Edelman.
Yeah.
Because he's had the best connection with him.
Yeah.
They probably had the best career stats together.
Yeah.
So, I think it's the same for that one a little bit. Greg Jennings and him were on another level, passing-wise. Speaking of wide receivers, I say we just move to them.
You want to go to the wide receivers? Yeah. Okay, well, you guys know, Dro, Alejandro Flores. He's a Niner fan. So I already have an idea who your receiver is going to be. I'm hoping that you don't do this.
I'm hoping that you don't do what you're about to do right now.
I'm hoping that you don't do this. But, now, two of the greatest receivers of all time, to me, these are the top two, is Randy Moss and Jerry Rice.
Shouldn't be a question.
Terrell Owens is close. But, I just can't put him there. He's also a lot of drama. I don't like drama.
Funny enough, T.O. is definitely up there, but I think as time has gone on, I think I want to put Larry Fitzgerald up in that conversation with T.O. He has the numbers for it.
I'm sorry, I can't put Larry Fitzgerald. He's too slow.
Well, you're talking about Larry Fitzgerald now.
But I haven't seen, he still wasn't like one of the greatest athletes.
He took a
Speed-wise.
Yes, he did. He took a slant route in the Super Bowl against the Steelers, and he outran Polamalu and all those safeties.
Polamalu's not fast.
How do you think he gets to the box so fast?
I'm just saying.
You're underrating.
Polamalu's not a speed.
But you're underrating his speed as well, and I think you're underrating the speed of that most safeties have, anyways. Most safeties are in the league because
Randy Moss's speed is nothing.
No, again, I'm telling you, Larry Fitzgerald over T.O.
Okay.
I'm not putting him over Randy or Jerry.
We could put him in that conversation.
That's what I'm putting.
I don't think he's in these two conversations at all.
Not even close.
Okay, so this is what I want to say about Randy Moss. Randy Moss and Jerry Rice, they played for the greatest team of all time, the Raiders. So I like both of them. In 1998, Randy Moss came into the league and he was Rookie of the Year. So he already came into the league very hot, and he had a lot of potential that he had to live up to. 6-time Pro Bowler, 4-time first team, 0 rings. But who did Randy Moss have throwing him the ball most of the time? He had Dante Culpepper. Jerry Rice, we go to the other side. He had Joe Montana and Steve Young. And when he got to the Raiders, he had Rich Gannon. So he had 11 Pro Bowls, and he was 10-time first team. But on top of that, he also played a lot more years than Randy Moss did. Their yards and touchdowns, Jerry Rice is beating him by a landslide. But what you also have to remember is the team that Jerry Rice was on compared to the teams that Randy Moss was on.
Okay. So
Jerry Rice had you want to know what Jerry Rice's 40-yard dash was?
Go ahead.
It was a 4.7.
I'd see.
That's the same speed as Josh Allen for the Bills.
See, then again, though, I think you got to understand Jerry Rice. If you this is stats you're talking about. You also said to look at the tape. Look at how fast Jerry Rice was. Watch his highlight tape.
I don't think he's as fast as Randy Moss at all.
Oh, I think he's faster.
You think he's faster than Randy Moss?
If you watch the tape and you see, Jerry Rice was never known for the guy who goes up and grabs it. Jerry Rice caught the ball on the run and took it to the house. If you watch the Miracle in the Meadowlands where the Niners had that big pass to Jerry Rice. A notable one is in Chicago where he caught a streak right here in front of him and then he still managed to just take it straight to the left and outrun the cornerback straight to the end zone. So, yes, I get it, Randy Moss, but also what has to go against Randy Moss's career is the fact that he did have arguably the greatest team of all time and still couldn't win a Super Bowl.
The Patriots?
The Patriots. They were undefeated all the way through. Mm-hmm. And he was didn't have a great stat line that game.
No.
He only had that one touchdown, but he was really shut down throughout the entire game.
Yeah, that is understandable.
So, and Jerry Rice, on the other hand, if you want to talk about Super Bowls, had a 200-yard receiving game. You know, he's had his moments in the Super Bowl. You know, Jerry Rice has had his moments in the playoffs. He's come up in the clutch. I think the only reason, and you got to put this too, yes, Jerry Rice has had great quarterbacks. But the reason why they're considered great quarterbacks too is also thanks to
Jerry Rice.
You know, he has, you can't put it all on the quarterback sometimes. Sometimes a quarterback does need help, obviously.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. I understand what you're saying.
So, and his stats, you want to talk about...
They're completely... I looked at the stats.
And here's the thing, too. You want to talk about Randy Moss at the age of 40? You know? Randy Moss at the age of 40, he was playing. You saw the stats. He barely got 500 yards. I think maybe even less than that. Jerry Rice still had a 1,000-yard season at the age of 40. And he also played great on the Raiders, mind you.
Yeah, so thank you, Jerry Rice.
He had a great career on the Raiders where he helped take them to the Super Bowl. Mm-hmm. He made Rich Gannon, or I think that was the quarterback, right?
It was either Rich Gannon or somebody else. I don't know. I don't remember.
I think it was Rich Gannon, but you know he made that team look good. He made him look good. He gave him a Hall of Fame. I mean, not a Hall of Fame, but an MVP season.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And Jerry Rice was kind of the main reason for that. So I get your argument. He's played with great quarterbacks. But when Jerry Rice then leaves the Niners and still plays at a high level at an age like that, no.
But the thing I think is Terrell Owens came in to replace Jerry Rice. And Terrell Owens had a great season as well. Mm-hmm. And he had Steve Young, right?
Yep.
So that's where I feel like Steve Young was a great quarterback, and a lot of times quarterbacks can make receivers great. And also, Jerry Rice...
but then again, to go against your Terrell Owens point, then Jerry Rice leaves the 49ers, feels like he's a little shoved out, right? Then what does he go do?
Then he
goes to the Raiders.
Yeah.
And he helps take them to a Super Bowl.
I understand.
And he drops a 1,000-yard receiving season.
I understand what you're saying.
And he even had one when he was on the Seahawks. Not even a notable point of his career.
I don't even remember him being on the Seahawks.
Not even a notable point of his career.
I just know that Randy Moss did not have a lot of help on his team. He was on the Minnesota Vikings team, And you've seen the talent that he has, though. I know you've seen the stat line where he had like 3 catches for like 250 yards and 3 touchdowns or something like that.
Yes, talent-wise, he's
Jerry
great.
Rice has never done anything like that.
But except Jerry Rice has had 200-yard receiving season. And sometimes just because he's had only 3 receptions with 3 touchdowns does not also mean it's an incredible stat line. Yeah, you know what I mean? Jerry Rice had 3 touchdown games, but he also had 8 receptions to go along with it as well. And he still had 200 yards. So, like, just because it's, oh my God, he had 3 receptions and all of them were touchdowns. Okay, and Jerry Rice had 3 touchdowns too, but he also had more receptions to go along with that in a game. You know what I mean? He had 8 to 9 receptions in a game. He racked up yards. He racked up touchdowns. It just... You can't. So I get sometimes the stats don't tell the entire story, but when the film matches the stats, and especially stats in the clutch, Jerry Rice was a clutch Super Bowl player. You can't argue it.
I just think if you give Randy Moss, Joe Montana, he was only with Tom Brady for 3 years, I believe, and they went to the Super Bowl once. But Jerry Rice had Joe Montana and Steve Young and Rich Gannon, who was the MVP. But I just can't.
But what happened after that though?
That doesn't matter, Joe. That's not what matters.
Like
what matters.
What happened? Like where's Rich Gannon now?
Nowhere. He's on television, being a sports analyst.
Yeah, right. But he never made anything of his career besides that season.
Yeah.
So obviously he wasn't a good quarterback. So you want to talk about, and then you had Rich Gannon on MVP season. The reason why he had an MVP season was because he had Jerry Rice. You have a receiver like that helps out a lot. You know what I mean? We just talked about this with quarterbacks and how important weapons are.
Yeah.
Really. You know what I mean? So... Dude, I can't. You can't put him over Jerry Rice.
Let us know in the comments who you think your biggest GOAT is for the wide receivers. I think that's the biggest controversial one.
Mm-hmm. Definitely the most controversial because, like, even the other one, like, I know I'm doing a reach with putting Rodgers over Brady because it's hard to argue with. Again, it's hard to argue with those stats. I just think talent-wise, again, I think he's better. And then again, the thing is, too, is I know you're saying Moss is better, but I don't even think there's a big argument talent-wise that Moss is better than Rice. Rice with his speed, his athleticism. If you watch the tape, it shows the proof is in the footage, and it backs up the stats.
That is true.
And just so you know.
Now, also, if we're bringing up talent, we have to mention Calvin Megatron Johnson.
Yes,
we have to make it.
Okay.
We have to.
So if you want to talk about the one thing I was going to say about Megatron is, I think had he played a longer career. And had a better team. Yeah. And had a better team where he maybe had a chance to do more in the playoffs as well. Yeah.
I also don't think Matthew Stafford is that amazing. So
see, again, I think that was when Calvin Johnson's career really exploded, is when he got Matthew
compared
Stafford.
To like Joe Montana and Steve Young.
Well, of course
Matthew
he's
Stafford,
not. Of course he's not in the all-time, but don't also discredit Matthew Stafford. He's a great quarterback. I think had Megatron played a little more, I think he was probably the most talented wide receiver of all time.
He's the most talented.
I think 6'5", even more,
just as fast as anybody on the field.
Yeah, I think even more so than Randy Moss, Megatron was definitely more of a monster.
And he could jump over. I think Calvin Johnson should have Moss. You know, the verb being mossed. I think that should be Calvin. Because he's had
some more highlights.
Like that D-Hop. D-Hop catch, Calvin Johnson did that like 5 times.
5 times, where he was triple teamed. It was just lobbed up to the end zone and just said,
and he got,
screw it.
Like, he got pressed by 2 corners.
Mm-hmm.
And it looks like
at the goal line.
It looks like they're punting.
Yeah. No, literally, exactly. No.
That's how they're
Calvin Johnson was an all-time great talent. And I'm glad they let him into the Hall of Fame because he deserved to. Even though he had a short career.
Yeah, but
that shouldn't have gone against him like that.
I don't blame him.
And I don't blame him either. He never had help on the Lions, so there was never a foreseeable future with them, I think.
Yeah, and he kept getting targeted, so he got hit a lot.
Concussions, everything like that. So for his mental sake and health-wise, I respect his decision. Okay, to move on, cornerbacks.
All right, guys. Young Trev, 5-star corner. I got I'm going to Alabama next year to, play corner for them. So,
okay.
No, I'm just playing. But I gotta know what I'm talking about with these corners. So this is what the biggest what most people think. They like, oh, Deion Sanders, he's the greatest corner ever. I seen him go against this dude and this dude. Nah, I'm sorry. This is what I think. For my best corner ever, I'm going with Darrelle Revis. Now, this is why I'm going with Darrelle Revis. 7-time Pro Bowler, 4-time first team, won a championship with the Patriots. But
Go ahead.
But pretty much he was the person of the Jets. Like, for our generation, who are the Jets? I don't know who the Jets are. I didn't know who they were until Darrelle Revis came in there and created a name for the Jets. He created a team that now can have a new name with Zach Wilson, hopefully. But the difference that I seen is you seen the Jalen Ramsey that we have where he'll go against players and they're just gone. Revis Island is a real thing. And Calvin Johnson, like we just talked about his amazing talent. When he went against Darrelle Revis, 1 catch for 13 yards the whole game.
Mm-hmm.
But now we bring it over to Deion Sanders. When Deion Sanders went against Jerry Rice had 8 catches for 171 yards one time. And another time he had 13 catches, 225 yards, and 5 touchdowns on Deion Sanders. So the thing that I think people think about a lot of times with Deion Sanders, and you'll see it a lot of times in his highlights, is his punt returns and his kick returns. They all factor in. And on top of that, he played receiver as well. But just as a corner, I can't put him over Darrelle Revis.
Okay. The only thing I have to say about that is the fact that Darrelle Revis' main debate has been against Richard Sherman as a standing because they almost have similar career numbers.
Yeah.
It can't be Revis. I don't even think Revis is better than many other guys. He's not better than Rod Woodson. He's not better than Charles. He's not better than Charles Woodson.
I love Charles Woodson too.
I don't think he's better than him. I don't think he's better than Mike Haynes. I think Revis Island is a thing though.
Mike Haynes?
Mike Haynes back then, he's a Raiders cornerback back in the day. I think he deserves a little bit of credit. As a Raiders fan, you should give him credit. Mel Blount, Mel Blount from the Steelers.
I know what you're talking. I'm just talking about watching the game, and I see Darrelle Revis and what he does. I haven't seen many people do much else than that. Nobody's done better to me.
So then again, I'm gonna go because I know Deion is a bit of an old school, so but watching the tape, you see what Deion did against, and you want to talk about against big time receivers. He's went against all greats, Michael Irvin. He's gone against Jerry Rice himself, and he's had games where he's won against Jerry Rice himself. Mm-hmm. So and Deion he's gone against great competition, and he has way more interceptions than Darrelle Revis ever has. 53 career interceptions. Darrelle Revis, I believe, is in the 20s.
I understand.
And I know that people never threw to Revis Island. That could be the argument for that one. But people also didn't want to throw to Deion too.
Yeah, because he could return it to the house.
It was it was that same mentality. So again, I don't even think Darrelle Revis. I put Champ Bailey over Darrelle. Darrelle's top 10 in my eyes, but I don't. No, I can't even think of Darrelle Revis as a top 5 on my list. Again, it's Deion Sanders. He's done it.
He's not top 5.
No, dude. I just mentioned 5 guys that I think are better already. Again, Deion has gone to multiple teams too and succeeded too. So Deion has shown why, he's a great. It wasn't just a defensive system that he's in. It's every team that he goes to. He goes to Niners for 1 year, helps that defense become locked down. They win a Super Bowl and then he leaves. Where does he go? To the Cowboys. What did he do? Win Super Bowls. He has the rings to show for it. Mm-hmm. He has the stats to show for it, and he has the tape to show for it. He's a lockdown quarter. He's a ball hawk. Maybe he's not as good of a hitter at a DB position as many others, but that can't be held against him when he was that good of a ball hawk.
For me, I feel like he gets interceptions, but he also was in the league a lot longer than Darrelle Revis was. He went to a bunch of different teams. On top of that, Deion Sanders, I think what a lot of people like to realize, what a lot of people like to think about, is the fact that when he caught the ball, he could return it back, which is very dangerous. But that's not what was important to me. What's important to me is shutting down the receiver. most of the time, Darrell Revis was just getting past breakups. Deion Sanders was going for the interception, which some people could want. But at the same time, you see sometimes Deion Sanders gets cooked and he'll be destroyed. Darrell Revis, I didn't see that often.
I saw a little.
If you literally look up Jerry Rice versus Deion Sanders, they went against each other 11 times.
And then you see, to your point, let's go with the second greatest receiver of all time, Randy Moss. Mm-hmm. We've seen Randy Moss make that beautiful one-handed catch over Darrell Revis and still succeed over Darrell Revis. Remember, they were division rivals.
Yep.
For a good point of their career. Once Randy Moss came to New England, he had his quarterback, Tom Brady, right? He had his all-time great quarterback with him now. We saw what he did. There's a reason Randy Moss had the most touchdowns that year of all time in a season.
Yep.
Right? In the end, Darrell Revis against it's not like he went up to Randy Moss and shut him down all the time. Of course, Jerry Rice got his against Deion Sanders, but so did Randy Moss against Darrell Revis. And then, just in my eyes, again, this can also go back to the receiver debate, just because I see Jerry Rice as the greatest receiver of all time. When I see you lock down Jerry Rice a good amount of times where it's almost like a debate 50-50, who's better, there's still a discussion about that. Who's better, Deion or Jerry Rice, when they go up against each other? He made it enough of a point where it's a debate now. Who's better when they go head-to-head? Mm-hmm. That still goes on today. And when you do that to the greatest receiver of all time, I just can't call you anything less but the greatest cornerback of all time.
I understand that.
So for Deion, I have to put that there. To move on to another point real quick, I know we didn't have this listed down ahead of time. As far as, because I feel like we're missing a couple positions, I just want to mention, linebacker-wise, Ray Lewis.
It's got to be Ray Lewis. I don't think it's a debate for that.
I don't think it shouldn't be too much of a debate for that. Hardest hitter, has incredible stats and 2 Super Bowl rings.
Yeah.
And what he did with that first Super Bowl ring where it was that Ravens defense and they had Trent Dilfer as quarterback.
Try to hit the Ray Lewis real quick. Let me see if I can hit it.
I don't think you have enough room for that.
Wait, do I know how to do it?
No, you don't.
Alright, sorry.
It's not as bad as that, but I do have to say, too, Ray Lewis does have one of the best celebrations of all time. I don't know if that counts as points, but you know what I mean? Still, he led an incredible defense with not so great offense, you know what I mean, on the Ravens.
Joe Flacco.
And then even that, but Joe Flacco, I give Joe Flacco credit. Joe Flacco played great in that playoff run. You can't look at the stats, look at the actual footage. He tore up my Niners defense. I can't even lie. That dude won MVP for a reason. He played great. And Ray Lewis was at the end of his career there. He was getting old. But still, that's why I think the first Super Bowl is the most noticeable one against the Giants, where that defense just tore up everybody they went through.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So Ray Lewis, again, linebacker standpoint, there should be an argument about that.
I don't even know who number 2 is. Brian Urlacher?
There's some other.
I honestly, Ray Lewis is he's a great leader. He's a great hitter, run stopper.
I guess it depends what you think about for a linebacker. So I guess we're talking about middle linebacker, right?
Yeah, middle linebacker.
So, because then you could go with the outside linebacker, and it's obviously Lawrence Taylor.
Oh, Lawrence Taylor, yeah.
But that's outside linebacker. So if we're talking middle linebacker, it's obviously Ray Lewis. You know what I mean?
We didn't put edge rusher on here. We didn't cover that.
I think it's outside linebacker.
I gotta put Lawrence Taylor.
Lawrence Taylor. There shouldn't be a
even
debate
though
on
I
that.
didn't watch him. Just the way that people speak about him, and on top of that, seeing a little bit of tape on him, you could just tell that he was completely different than everybody else.
But definitely as middle linebackers go, I think Dick Butkus could have been in the conversation. He was on that Bears lockdown defense.
He's that 1950s and stuff. I can't.
Mike Singletary, credit to him.
Mike Singletary is good.
Great linebacker for middle linebackers. But yes, as far as outside linebackers go, and rushers themselves, it's Lawrence Taylor. Here's one thing I do want to say as far as the tackles go.
Aaron Donald might be
I think by the time Aaron Donald's career is over, he will be considered the greatest defensive tackle of all time, because we are witnessing something on another level with Donald.
It's completely different.
We don't see guys get triple and quadruple teamed as often as Aaron Donald, even in the all-time. Even all-time.
2 people isn't enough
history.
for Aaron Donald.
It's not. So Aaron Donald, by the end of his career, when he gets all the stats finalized, I don't think there should be a debate. Aaron Donald will be the greatest D tackle of all time.
He needs a ring, though.
He does need a ring.
He does need a
ring. And
ring.
I think hopefully, because my prediction is he's going to get it this year with the Rams.
Yeah, he does need that ring.
I think this is the team to do it if he really,
Yeah. Last one is greatest of all time, period.
Greatest of all time, period. For me, oh man, if I was to list it out, Jerry Rice 1, Lawrence Taylor 2. I think, again, I said greatest of all time shouldn't just be nailed as a quarterback thing.
Wait. Jerry Rice is the greatest football player to ever put on some cleats. His stats are on a whole nother level, and footage-wise, we saw what he did in the Super Bowl, and we saw what he did in the playoffs and everything like that. You good, man? I just need to take a breather.
Okay, well then, you know what? No, here we go. Let's hear who's your greatest football player ever.
So this is why we have to really think about things. We have to think about it. Greatest football player ever. I want somebody that could do everything. I want somebody that could go catch a route for me. Maybe not be able to throw a ball. You should just be able to throw like 20 yards and be cool. Be able to go return a kick, return a punt, go play defense.
So who are you thinking of?
Deion Sanders. I got Deion Sanders.
Funny that you have Deion as your greatest football, but not your greatest corner?
That's why.
Because you have a more all-around.
Because he's an all-around player. What I did with my research was I found out that Deion was first-team All-Pro twice for a returner and 6 times as a corner. So he got first-team All-Pro for doing something else. So if he was a receiver as well, I'm pretty confident that Deion Sanders could be one of the greatest receivers of all time as well.
Man, okay. So for me, Deion is technically in my top 5. Also, funny enough, I have Rodgers as a better quarterback than Brady, but I think when it comes to all-time greats, you just can't argue. Again, you can't argue numbers. I said before, I think Rodgers is the better all-time quarterback because I think of what he does as a thrower. But when you talk about all-time greats, you also have to bring in the stats. You have to bring in everything like that. I think it's a different standard when you're talking about just best in the position versus best overall standing. So I put Brady up there at 3. I put Deion 4. The only reason, again, is Jerry Rice, when it comes to numbers and film. Again, I get Deion is an all-around great player, but football isn't. Most of the time, you don't have guys who are doing everything on the field like Deion, of course.
That's why I consider him.
And of course, that's probably why you consider him. But that also means that just because someone does one thing, also shouldn't discredit them. And especially when you do one thing really good, like Jerry Rice did. But again, I actually think Deion Sanders is an underrated pick. He's in my top 5 all the time. But I can't put him over Jerry. And I don't even think you can consider Deion the greatest defensive player all time because there's guys like Lawrence Taylor. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? So, yeah. No, Jerry Rice. Jerry Rice has the numbers. He has the footage.
He can't return a kick for me, though.
Of course. But why do you need him to?
Because my greatest player, I want you to be able to do everything.
Okay. Well, here's what my greatest player does. Here's what my greatest player does. They return a kick only 5 yards. What does Jerry Rice do? Takes it 95 yards to the house. That's my greatest player. Because that's stuff Jerry Rice did. You know what I mean? He was a deep threat. He was a short intermediate guy.
Can he go lock up Calvin Johnson?
Why does he need to play DB?
I'm just saying. Why does he? I need somebody to go out there and go do everything.
Why does he need to play DB when he's so good offensively that he just opens up the entire field? Again, just because Jerry Rice stuck to one position doesn't also mean it should be held against him. I'm not going to lie
to you, Joe. I think Jerry Rice at number 1 is a little controversial.
No, it's not. I've seen many lists where Jerry Rice is their number 1 all time.
The greatest player of all time.
The greatest player of all time.
Better than Joe Montana, Tom Brady.
Yes, if you think Joe Montana's an all-time great Niner compared to Jerry, like a better Niner than Jerry Rice, then you're tripping. You really are. Because Jerry Rice is the best Niner player of all time, and I think he's also the greatest football player of all time.
Jerry Rice is better than Lawrence Taylor.
Yes.
Okay. Now, yes, so Jerry Rice and Lawrence Taylor are both similar because they do one thing extremely well.
Extremely well. And again, so maybe when it comes to the all-time conversation, you can argue like what you think is like what do you think is more valuable?
Important? Yeah.
What is more valuable? Do you find a receiver more valuable, or do you find a defensive tackle more, or an outside linebacker who rushes more valuable.
Yeah.
Most teams find that rusher more valuable because lines are so underrated these days. Offensive lines and defensive lines, they're very underrated. But again, I think when you have a transcendent receiver like that at another level, then you could start talking about
vocabulary word, bro. Transcendent.
But when you have a guy like that at another level, you know what I mean? Like, he plays at a level most other receivers don't. Then you have to consider that position being a little more valuable with him in it.
Okay, that one is very controversial. I'm very curious what other people say about that.
Yeah,
because Jerry Rice, the number one, is a big one for me. But as a DB, I gotta represent my DBs. I gotta put Deion Sanders on there.
I think it's an interesting take. Yeah.
Yeah, but
of course, I think, and then to add on to like number 5 for me, it would be a running back. Again, I think Barry Sanders is the all-time great running back, so I put him at like 5. So if I was having like a top 5 greatest players of all time overall, Jerry, Lawrence, Brady, Deion, and then Barry.
Brady's over Deion?
Again, it's this whole dude. At this point, dude, I know. I say again, Rodgers is a greater quarterback talent-wise and in a better situation.
Can't argue the stats.
But you can't argue the rings now. He's got 7. I know we're in a losing argument with that one. You know what I mean?
It's hard to argue against Tom Brady. If you win 7 times, how can you really say that?
And I guarantee you, what's controversial is the fact that I'm putting him at 3, and like you're not putting him in your.
No, yeah, I don't think Tom Brady's the greatest of all time for players.
Yeah,
because I don't like how people just put quarterbacks. Because just because I don't know how to throw a football, don't mean I don't know how to play football.
And then the thing is too is it goes with the MVP too. It just seems to always go to the quarterback as the most valuable player.
I hate that so much.
There's been players and seasons that they missed out on between like great running backs. Like Derrick Henry
never win.
Derrick Henry should have been in the conversation a little more than
Aaron Rodgers.
Not Aaron Rodgers. I think Aaron Rodgers still had a great season, but I think him and Aaron should have been neck and neck. Having a 2,000-yard season should not be.
Did Chris Johnson even win?
He tied. I think they had a tie with him and Peyton Manning. Which even then, Peyton Manning should have never tied with him.
Yeah.
Should like. It's just they so badly want to put quarterbacks there in the MVP conversation, but it's Derrick Henry had a 2,000-yard rushing season. That should not.
After he hits 1,000 yards, people are game planning for him.
Mm-hmm.
So they just gonna put extra people in the box, and he still got another 1,000 yards.
Like he's the reason Tannehill succeeds so much off of that play action. There's a reason why Tannehill got the best stats as a play action quarterback.
I'm not gonna lie to you. I think Derrick Henry is the reason why Ryan Tannehill is so good.
He's a help. In the end, Tannehill's a good passer. Tannehill's a good passer, but there's a reason why he succeeds so good too. It's because of Derrick Henry. And then again, like I think it was Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes were the other 2 finalists. I put Derrick Henry over those 2. I get it. He's had a great quarterback season, but a 2,000-yard rushing season is so rare to come by.
You gotta give him credit.
You have to give him credit. That's an all-time great season right there.
We're always gonna remember this season.
We're gonna remember this season.
But people aren't gonna remember it as much because he didn't win MVP.
Exactly. So again. And then that goes to the whole thing, like, how valuable is the quarterback? Quarterback is extremely valuable. You need a face of the franchise, of course. But there's other guys, too, that really make that team. You know what I mean?
Yep.
It's a good running game, a good defense. Everything makes a player.
If you don't have a quarterback, you can't be a good team, like the Buccaneers.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, right when they got their quarterback, they went to the Super Bowl. But at the same time, if you take away Mike Evans and Chris Godwin and LaShawn McCoy, he didn't play. Ronald Jones and all those dudes.
Fournette.
He's not doing anything. So,
it's hard. It's hard to do something at that level. You know what I mean? So, like, the other guys that make up that team, that defense, again, defense wins championships. So, defensive players need credit. Like, I'm still shocked that there hasn't been a defense MVP. Like, not once did they ever.
The last one was Lawrence Taylor.
Yeah. And they didn't consider Aaron Donald. I know
Donald should win.
J.J. Watt was the closest to getting it because he almost broke the sack record held by Strahan. And so he was in the conversation for it. Didn't win it though, unfortunately. And again, People might say Aaron Donald. Again, people say Aaron Donald shouldn't even win Defensive Player of the Year this year. No, he should have. He deserved it.
T.J. Watt is not nothing compared
T.J. Watt is nothing on the level. So, hey, no, just stop. T.J. Watt has more stats, but again, Aaron Donald, as a defensive tackles are not meant to get more sacks.
No, their job is to just clog up and eat double teams.
Eat double teams and stop the run, too.
They're not even supposed to get stats.
So when a defensive tackle averages double-digit sacks a season, that's insane. That's an insane stat right there already by its own. And the fact that Donald gets double and triple team like that, no. Donald should have won an MVP one of his seasons. I will argue that till the end of time. There's many MVPs that are very controversial. You know, like not incredible quarterback seasons where you're thinking like, oh, like.
It should just go to whoever is the best player on one of the best teams.
And you got to see the impact that they make. You see the impact Donald makes on that defense. He's the reason that
Adrian Peterson won MVP once, didn't he?
Yes.
Yeah.
And because he had a 2,000-yard rushing season, and he was only 9 yards behind the all-time best.
Yeah. So I agree. That should happen more often. I don't think it should be.
Well, like when you see a 2,000-yard rushing season, like at least they gave Chris Johnson a bit of his credit, but the fact that he even tied with Manning, when I saw the stat line, Manning was not. It wasn't a Manning year, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Again, so that's just how kind of the NFL sees it, though. It's the quarterback that's always the most valuable. I don't see it in the all-time great standpoint, and I don't see it in most of the time in the MVP. I think that it should be a little more, you know, like open to positions. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
To move on to the sport, let's go back. NBA free agency has kicked off.
Big time,
it has
baby.
gone to a big point. 3 notable teams, the Bulls, the Heat, and the Lakers have had the most active free agency. Of course, the Lakers got Russell Westbrook, but now to put along with Russell Westbrook, they've gotten guys like Carmelo Anthony, and they've gotten many other guys, shooters. In fact, actually, some people who are considered good shooters.
Winners, actually.
It's,
I'll let you speak on the Bulls and the Heat because we don't really care about them. But
no,
for the Lakers, a lot of people saying, "Oh my God, you guys got Westbrook. You're not gonna get anybody. You guys can't shoot." That was funny. That was actually really funny because you guys forgot that we have LeBron on our team, so people are coming. We got Melo. Melo, you're finally gonna get your ring, Melo. So you're welcome. Say it ahead of time. You're welcome, man.
Dude, if you do not win a ring, it's gonna be so funny.
No. I don't think it's gonna be funny. I just think if we don't win it this year, we're gonna win it next year. But Kent Bazemore is on our bench. He's one of the last people on our bench. Kent Bazemore. We have what's his name? Dwight Howard came back. We got Carmelo back on the team. That's just the biggest one. I don't even think we need to talk about the other people. Do we even need to talk about the other people? We got Malik Monk.
That's a good one. I thought that was a good one.
Kendrick Nunn is our backup point guard.
Again, that one was probably I think my favorite pickup. Kendrick Nunn, I think, was in the first team all rookie as a
Yes, like he was about to win Rookie of the Year.
I think Kendrick Nunn was a great pickup for them. That was probably the best pickup besides Westbrook, in my opinion.
I think there's one more. We just got a lot of people, guys. And I just think at this point, when we get to the bench, you guys are going to get destroyed. Everybody in the league. I don't care who you are. It's just not going to go well for you. Mm-hmm. So, I'll see you guys in the championship, and go Lakers.
I'm not going to be so quick to jump the gun with that part, but I do think the Lakers did have a great free agency. After signing Westbrook, they did what they needed to do, signing guys like that. And I think this is time now where you could officially call them a super team. I never considered them a super team with only 2 stars, because once you got past those 2 stars, you saw what they really were. Again, I feel super teams can really start being called that when you start getting the big 3, like an all-time great, and it's a big 3 that you put together from other teams. Homegrown big 3 should not be considered super teams because you...
Like the Warriors aren't a super team? Yeah, I've been seeing that thrown around a lot.
Like the 2016 Warriors are not a super team. You know why? Because they drafted those players. They built those players from the inside. When you build a super team, it's guys from other teams that you've seen play at high levels, and you bring in... So once they got Kevin Durant, of course it's a super team. Because you brought in a top 5 player now to go with another top 5 player now.
Now, this is a question I want to ask you. Which team is better? That team with Kevin Durant or this Lakers team?
That team. I think that team should be...
The Warriors team is better?
Well, you want to go by player? Player by player?
I mean...
You want to go player by player? Steph Curry is better than...
Russell Westbrook.
Okay. Easily. Klay Thompson's better than whoever your shooting guard's going to be. Right? Talon Horton Tucker? Don't even think. I see your mind thinking. Why are you even thinking right now?
Yeah,
Why are you thinking?
I was thinking...
Don't think.
Yeah.
Don't think. Just say yes. Yes.
Yeah,
Klay Thompson is better than whoever their shooting guard is going to be.
KD and LeBron, they cancel each other out.
They almost cancel each other out. And then the only one that they could probably...
forward, AD is better than Draymond.
Of course, you could say that because Draymond, what he brings defensively, but he does not bring offensively. I think defensively, though, Draymond and AD are on the same level. Again, it's just what AD brings as an offensive player as well.
And then the center, they cancel each other out, too.
Because they almost... Their centers are almost... negated
like
a little
nothing
bit.
They're really not.
They're there to fill a body. Sometimes they even go with us. Like our center was just there to be there for the starting lineup.
But you really didn't.
And then once he was gone, then it was really Andre Iguodala that came in as our sixth man to really finish the game. And I think too, when we had DeMarcus Cousins, it was really scary if they didn't get injured. That team would have been... Had that team won the championship healthy, it would have been considered better than even... Because I know the 17 Warriors are the ones that are considered the best. Mm-hmm. Because even then, we still had a pretty solid bench. Even Nick Young as another shooter off the bench. You know, we had guys. So again, no, I just don't think...
I don't know if Melo is starting or not. But if Melo is our sixth man, it's going to be... The bench is what kills the Warriors. That's the biggest difference. The starting lineup might be able to destroy the Lakers. Not destroy, but they'll be able to win over the Lakers. But once those starters come out, Lakers are taking a huge lead. Kendrick Nunn, Melo, Malik Monk.
But I also think you're underrating that.
Sean Livingston?
Whoa, you just said Sean Livingston like that's a bad thing.
Sean Livingston over Kendrick Nunn?
Yes, right now at the point of the career, yes. Yes, right now in their point of the career, yes. Sean Livingston was a way better sixth man.
He can't even shoot threes.
There's a reason. Okay, let me just say this. There's a reason why the Warriors' motto in 2016 was strength in numbers. Because they had an incredible bench. They did.
I don't think it's better than this Lakers
They had
bench.
Leandro Barbosa, Mo Spates coming off the bench. They had guys.
Mo Spates. I remember Mo Spates.
They had shooters coming off the bench. They had guys. They lost a couple of those guys, but they still...
Sean Livingston did the same move every time. He got in the post every time. And
he had a great fadeaway.
That weird...
And did it work? Yes, it did. Livingston Again, Livingston is a great mid-range shooter, and he's a great slasher. No, you can't say Livingston.
Iggy didn't have that much offense either.
But Iggy was a defender. He was a defender.
I can't.
He was a defender.
Give it to him. Melo is on our bench. He's going to carry the bench.
No, like I think if right now where Melo's at right now compared to where Iggy was at 2017, had Iggy defended Melo right now, I think Iggy would have locked him down because Melo's not
him down. But then we got Malik Monk and Kendrick Nunn as well too.
But then you're putting they're good, but you're putting them up there like they're.
Malik Monk shot 40% from 3 last year.
Of course he did, but then you put him against more solid defenders.
I can't. No. The bench is destroying them. So.
No, I think 2017 Warriors still. I don't think they destroyed the Lakers, but I do think because LeBron makes up for a lot of what they might be missing.
LeBron can do everything. So if they need a dub, they're gonna get the dub.
But I still think that 2017 Warriors team was too good. You can't put 2 top 5 players on the same team and in the end.
I think Anthony Davis, if you don't want to put him top 5, he's like number 7 or number 8.
Right now?
Right now.
No.
He's not in the top 10?
I don't think he's in the top. You got to put Joel Embiid. You got to put Nikola Jokic. I remember your top 10 too. You had Doncic and Harden. Giannis and Kawhi. They're better, right?
Jokic. He's also injured.
Jokic and Embiid. I think I put Kyrie Irving over.
What?
Over AD?
Kyrie Irving over AD?
I'm sorry, is there something wrong with what I said?
Wait. You said Kyrie Irving over Anthony Davis?
Yes.
Healthy.
Yes. Yes, what? Kyrie Irving is an incredible ball handler, facilitator.
I can't agree with that one. But we could move on to the Bulls and the Heat.
So the Bulls and the Heat made some big moves. Bulls getting Lonzo Ball. Yeah, I see you over there. Wow. He's not top 10, I don't think. Bulls, They obviously they got some big players. DeMar DeRozan is the most notable one. DeMar, who's expected to go to the Mavericks, there was a lot of rumors swirling around that one. Even the Lakers decided to do a sign and trade, join the Bulls. The Bulls also got Lonzo Ball, another good facilitator. Alex Caruso, which is a good bench player, solid bench player. And they already have Zach LaVine, who averaged 27 points per game last year. And they have Vucevic at the center spot. And they have Kobe White, who they drafted last.
I like Kobe White too.
And Kobe White's good. So the Bulls, it's playoff or bust now. There's no excuses.
But if we're being honest, this team, I don't know if they could beat Giannis.
No. So again, I don't see this team being one to compete with them too much. I do see them being a playoff team, and I think they only get better over time, though, to be honest.
Yeah, we got to see how they... I don't think this year they'll make it super far, but they do have the potential if they keep the team next year.
My key for this team is which DeMar shows up. Because if it's like...
that first year in San Antonio, I think
he was really good. And then he fell off kind of these past few years in San Antonio. Yeah. But he actually had an all-star...
power forward.
Yeah, but he had an all-star season this year. He should have been an all-star this year. But again... DeMar DeRozan back on the Raptors wasn't just an all-star. He was a top
he was a top 10 player.
He was considered the best shooting guard in the league, which he was. There shouldn't be an argument on that. Back when he was on the Raptors, he was on another level.
Still crazy to me that they chose Kyle Lowry over DeMar DeRozan.
To trade, but I think it's only because DeMar was so good that was the only guy they could trade for to get Kawhi.
Yeah, I guess.
I didn't like the move. Because more so that was kind of just me because I like DeMar and Kyle Lowry as a duo, as a friend duo. But in the end, it obviously worked out. Kawhi Leonard got him a championship ring and then left the next year. So who knows how much that actually did work out? Because if one ring's worth the future that you would have had,
they have no future now. The Raptors are in rebuild mode now,
and they didn't make moves this offseason that I liked. To be honest,
I think it's the Raptors now. They got to get free agents. Oh, they got Jalen Suggs, right? I think Jalen Suggs went to the Raptors.
Suggs went to the Magic.
The Magic?
Yeah.
Well, what team? Who did the Raptors get? Because I'm very curious who they got. I really feel like they didn't get anybody too promising.
So let's see.
It wasn't anybody too good if you can't find it right away. So the Raptors are definitely in rebuild mode. So we'll see how that goes. But
Scotty Barnes.
Scotty Barnes?
I forgot they passed up on him.
Oh, I thought they got Jalen Suggs.
No, they passed up on Suggs. I remember Suggs went to the Magic. I was like, what?
That's who he was projected to go to, I think.
And Suggs got passed up to Scotty Barnes from Florida State. Again, the Raptors just aren't making moves. It feels weird. And it's weird because the Raptors impressed me the year after they lost Kawhi.
They actually were still good. Yeah.
It seemed like that team figured out who they were, and it was a great defensive team. And they had Nick Nurse at coach, who I think was a better coach than the other guy that they had. He was coaching for the Pistons. He's coaching for the Pistons. I don't know if he's on another team now. I lost.
I don't know.
But either way, Nick Nurse was a great coach defensively. They had a great defensive setup. Van Vliet was a lockdown. Lowry was a lockdown. Siakam was locked down as a defense. So they had defensive players. It was known to be a defensive heavy team, and that was the reason why they were the 2 seed even the following year and still almost made it to the Eastern Conference Finals. But I just don't like the moves that they're making right now. Like, they're a little stagnant. You know what I mean? Either way, Bulls made good moves, and I think the most notable one. So you said, I don't see the Bulls taking down the Nets.
They're not better than the Nets.
They're not better than the Nets or the Bucks. A team that I could see competing with the Bucks a little bit, though, is the Heat. You said, I saw what you said on your Instagram, like, do the Heat make the playoffs? Barely, or no, not at all. Which I think were two horrible options because I think the Heat are going to clearly make the playoffs this year.
You think the Heat could be better than the Bucks this year?
Remember, there's a couple things that go into what happened. Jimmy Butler was hurt the entire season. The Heat suffered from the same thing the Lakers did.
Injuries.
Because of the fact that they had such a short period. And again, these aren't the type of... So there's difference between, like... I know injuries were definitely heavy this year, but the difference between like a freak injury, so like, put in an awkward position to tear your ACL, that kind of thing, versus, hamstring issues and calf, like those are due to your body being worn out and not having much time to rest, which the Heat did not. Just like the Lakers, they played the longest amount for the bubble.
I understand.
So, and I think the Heat making the finals wasn't a fluke either. It wasn't a fluke. I think their main problem was injuries this year. Jimmy Butler was not healthy throughout the entire. I don't know how many games he played. They have Victor Oladipo, who got hurt in the playoffs. Had he been in that series, that probably would have been a different series too.
Victor Oladipo is a weird player to me. I don't know if Victor Oladipo was amazing on the Magic, but he was a good player to watch. Like, he was really entertaining to watch. Then when he went to the Thunder, I kind of seen like, okay,
potential.
He can be great, but there was times where I was like, what are you doing?
And then he exploded on the Pacers.
Yeah, and on the Pacers he was great. But
again,
he got injured. He's very injury prone. Like,
yes.
He's never healthy.
So again, what I'm banking on for the Heat being able to compete with the Bucks is the fact that they're healthy. You see that's my main argument, right?
Yeah.
It's the health. They got Kyle Lowry now, which as much as I love,
I don't think he's that good, honestly.
Okay, so then here we go. As much as I love Goran Dragic, Kyle Lowry is much better because of what he now in his career. He's probably not as big of a scorer as he was back then, but he's still an incredible defender. And now you got Jimmy Butler at defense.
It's because he's fat.
No.
Kyle Lowry is kind of fat.
No, not he's not fat. Either way, Kyle Lowry, great defender. Jimmy Butler, great defender. Bam Adebayo, great center.
Bam Adebayo
as a defender.
I think he's their X factor.
As a solid defender.
If Bam Adebayo can play great, I could see.
Again, this Heat team, I think, is building up for a championship run here. I think they could compete with the Bucks. Who knows about the Nets? Again, I think a healthy Nets.
I don't think this thing is. I don't think the Heat can compete with the Nets at all.
I don't think many teams can when healthy. Even then,
Jimmy's not locking down KD. I don't care.
We know the Bucks got a little lucky when they're
with the injuries.
Yes, of course. But again, I just think the Heat are loading up for a championship run here. This is going to be their best shot that they can have to get it. It's going to be hard to get against Brooklyn, but I think they have a good defensive team. They need Victor Oladipo to be healthy because I think with Butler...
He's never healthy, yo. He's like every single year.
Yeah, I know. But
he's kind of like AD. He's injured every year.
We'll see. We'll see if maybe he has a rejuvenation like he did on the Pacers with that.
Yeah.
The health and everything. So Victor just needs to be healthy because I think the way they'd run the offense would be... Victor would be the main scorer. Because Butler's a guy who's willing to take a backseat. He doesn't feel like he has to be.
He'll just go play defense and won't even try to score.
And he'll be a facilitator, too. He's a great facilitator. So, again, I think this team can fit nicely.
They're also kind of old, if you really think about it. Their biggest pieces is Kyle Lowry.
Kyle Lowry's old.
And Jimmy Butler.
Bam is young. I think Butler is not as old, though.
I think he's like 34, if I had to take a guess, because he was on the Bulls for a long time. So I would take a guess.
He's 31.
31.
Curry's older than him, and Curry's still playing at the level.
Jimmy and Steph and LeBron and what Melo's prime was, he's way lower than them.
Okay,
he's not going to last that much longer.
We can't act like Jimmy Butler didn't have a great finals performance either, where he
did. He looked like he was about to die every single game.
But
he literally looked like he was putting 300%.
And he willed the Heat to 6 games against that Lakers team. You know, so... Yeah. Butler is not out of his prime either. I don't think we could just say that.
Tyler Herro also, we have to mention this. Tyler Herro had a very terrible season last year.
He had a sophomore slump.
And if Tyler Herro could come back, I could completely see what you're saying. But you need players on that bench to really
I think it's health and I think it's rhythm. They have Goran Dragic. I mean, not Goran Dragic. Sorry, who's their shooter?
Duncan
Robinson.
Oh, also Duncan Robinson. I think that was a terrible contract. I would not pay Duncan Robinson that much.
$590. What was it? $5
years, $95 million for Duncan Robinson.
Close to 20 a year. So 18, 19. I don't think that's a bad. Here's the thing.
But they paid him over Tyler Herro.
So it looks like a big contract, right? But yearly $18 million a year for a player with the contracts we see players, because you got to remember.
I don't even think he's their 6th man, though. He's like their 7th. I think Tyler Herro is the 6th man.
Well, he's a shooting specialist. He brings that 3-point game a little more. The thing is, too, the market in the NBA is much higher.
It's a lot higher
than it is to the NFL.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, like, seeing a contract like that in the NFL, even for like a receiver or something, is insane.
Yeah.
Seeing that for an NBA player is not too crazy because you see guys who are getting 40 mil constantly a year. Chris Paul's getting 40 million a year.
That's absurd.
At his age.
Blasphemy.
At his age.
Yeah. So, I wouldn't have paid him that much at all.
So again, I don't think it's that big of a contract. I like the moves that he made. I think they're building to try to reload. Hopefully they go healthy into this year. We could see what they could do as a full potential. I just have a couple of disappointments this free agency. I'm disappointed in the Warriors. A little bit. I'm happy with the draft, actually.
The draft was great. I
like their picks.
Jonathan Kuminga is a great player.
I just don't feel like we've gotten guys. There was rumors that we were going to get Nicholas Batum. We ended up not getting him. Goes back to the Clippers. The Clippers had a solid free agency because they got back the guys that they pretty much had the whole time.
Kawhi still hasn't signed yet, though.
He did.
He did?
He did. Yeah, he did say he was going to sign.
Okay,
and he was at one of their summer league games. He was supporting the Clippers.
He's going to be on the Clippers. 100%.
So he's going to be on the Clippers for a while. He likes LA too much.
Yeah.
I think people who said he was going to move away, that was no. He moved to LA for a reason.
That's where he's from.
Yeah,
so.
he moved to LA for a reason, and I don't think he's going to join the Lakers because he's not going to try to get that bad name.
He don't want to be a super team. Yeah.
So again, I don't like the moves. I just don't like that the Warriors have lacked in some moves. Like this would have been the time to now get some bench players. Get a supporting.
They did get a younger group, but there's not people that are really like 100%.
But like
okay,
veteran bench players. That's who I liked. So like Batum,
wait, did Iggy sign?
Yes, but Iguodala's a good one.
Iggy's back on the Warriors.
Back on the Warriors, so that's a good one. But again, it's just I feel like they've lacked a little bit in their free agency moves. Another one is the Portland Trailblazers.
They're done. What did they do?
That's a great question, Travis.
What did they do? Because Damian Lillard is the great. Steph Curry was great, but if you need a next great point guard, I'm going with Damian Lillard.
Yeah, and then there's the argument. Yeah, it's probably Damian Lillard over Kyrie. Maybe who knows?
Yeah, because he does the same things as Steph. Steph's just a little bit better, but he's
and Lillard's actually an underrated defender, I think, too. A little bit.
He's Steph, but he's just a B+ version of Steph.
Yeah. They didn't make any moves. This is the year, like you were talking. There was all this talk about Damian Lillard having no help, which obviously he didn't.
Damian Lillard needs to leave.
Yeah, had no help. Damian Lillard apparently staying loyal to the team still.
No.
Kind of. I get the loyalty aspect, but there's a bit of ignorance with it when you have.
I don't get
when they're not showing that same level of cooperation, that's a problem.
Do you even want to visit Portland? Have you ever been to Portland before?
No. It's not really
I don't want to visit Portland. So you have to go and pay people a lot of money, or you have to go get somebody great in the draft. Trade up in the draft to get a number 1 pick or something. Yeah. Or lose so you can get the number 1 pick.
The Portland didn't make too many moves. I was disappointed in that. Sixers I'm disappointed in because...
Ben Simmons is going to stay on the team.
But he doesn't want to. See, my problem is not that Ben Simmons is like a horrible player. I think he needs confidence again. But
y'all still did nothing since the last episode. That was a week ago.
Why is he still on the team? Because he doesn't want to be there. He obviously doesn't want to show the effort to your team that you'd want from a starting point guard. So why is he still there? You could get assets for this guy, and you haven't made that move. You know what I mean? And I heard there's this rumor that they want Damian Lillard, but then if you're asking for Damian Lillard
for Ben Simmons,
and the most you're gonna have to give up pieces.
You're going to have to give up a lot more than just Ben Simmons.
Because then you're going to compare Ben Simmons and Lillard. Lillard's obviously the higher asset they're getting right there. So they're going to have to give up stuff with Ben Simmons to get him. I think they missed opportunities not taking like the 15th or the 7th overall pick.
They should have did that very easily. Joel Embiid might have to leave as well. Because Joel Embiid, I'm not going to...
Here's the thing. The Sixers aren't a horrible team. They were the 1 seed last year.
He'll never win a ring on the Sixers.
I just think they need they have a good team. They just need to
They need to make moves fast. Tobias Harris was a smart move that they made, but it hasn't been working. Like I don't think Tobias Harris could be the number 2 and they do great.
A notable move that I actually like is Kemba Walker going to the Knicks. Only because Kemba Walker didn't do too good on the Celtics. He disappointed me, really. I was really hyped when he went to the Celtics.
I really like Kemba Walker.
I thought he was going to really shine. I thought that was the perfect move that they could have made, signing Kemba. Here's the thing. I'm hoping, Kemba now being the true number 1 option. Again, we've seen guys who Like Paul George, once he didn't become the number one option, what happened? He kind of
Wait. Who's his second option? R.J. Barrett? Is that his second?
R.J. or oh no, who's Julius Randle.
Julius Randle. Okay, yeah. So some people like the Knicks and they think that they're a great team. I know a couple people that believe in that, but for me, Julius Randle is a great player in our league right now. But Julius Randle making it to the championship, being the number one player for his team,
I still don't think the Knicks made enough moves to make a championship run.
I don't even think they're a far playoff team.
But I think the move with Kemba Walker though can help, because if Kemba can catch rhythm being the number one option again,
yeah,
then it can help Julius Randle. You know what I mean? Because then, I
don't know. Is it Julius Randle or is it Kemba Walker for number one?
I'd put Kemba. I think Kemba because
that one's actually debatable.
Kemba being the ball handler, I think because Kemba's took a backseat because it's Jason Tatum
and Jaylen Brown.
And obviously what we saw is
the Celtics too. They didn't
do nothing.
They lost Enes Kanter, I think. Or no, he resigned.
I think he might have resigned. But either way, they didn't. Their team
is not doing anything.
From a team in 2018 that made it to
the Eastern
Conference Finals against LeBron.
Yeah.
As a young team, we're thinking in a couple years this team definitely has to make the finals at some point. Then they go in 2020 and make it to the Eastern Conference Finals and lose to the Heat, a Heat team which, looking at the roster,
they're like, there's no way the
Celtics should be losing to this team. No. Tatum, Brown, Marcus Smart, even as a defender and a sixth man, Kemba Walker. What?
They lost.
And they lost.
And I think the biggest thing is Jason Tatum is a great talent in the league. Like, I think Jason Tatum has the potential to not. I don't think he could be the greatest in the league, but he could be top 5.
Definitely. And he will be at some point in his career. Yeah. I'd bank money on that.
I look at him more, now that Devin Booker showed me that, I look at him as the Kobe Bryant future.
I do think over so. Devin Booker. I've been thinking that too. So again, not many moves there. Utah, kind of sticking with the team that was the number one seed, which again, my only problem with Utah is they remind me too much of the Rockets back in 2018. Live and die by that three.
Yeah.
And we saw what happened when the Rockets in Game 7 against the Warriors, they couldn't make the threes. What happened? They lost because they live and die by it. They kept shooting threes. So again, with Utah, I don't know. They were the 1 seed, so I mean they're obviously good team.
They were also the 1 seed because everybody was injured. So
yes, but they're obviously a good team though because they went on a win streak too. They
are a good team, but I just don't think the Utah Jazz, you guys, it's no.
And it showed when Mitchell was the only guy making shots. Again, why?
Donovan Mitchell also, he's a good player, but if he's your number one, you're not gonna.
Whoa! No! Let's not do that now. No, Donovan Mitchell is the second best shooting guard in the league. I will stand by.
He's second.
He's better than Booker. He's better than Booker.
Better than Booker?
I think the only guy that he's not better than is Paul George as a shooting guard standpoint.
He's better than Devin Booker?
Yes. What?
Donovan Mitchell is better than Devin Booker?
Donovan Mitchell does better.
He's a playmaker too, though. He does make plays, but Devin Booker as a scorer, just a shooting guard.
Well, here's the thing: Donovan Mitchell is a great finisher in the lane, and in the game that they lost in Game 6, Mitchell had 40 points.
Nah, I can't.
No, Mitchell. I think I don't know where this idea came from that Booker was a better player than Mitchell, but he's not. And the thing is, too, is Mitchell's a better defender. Mitchell's not getting.
Mitchell is a better defender.
Mitchell's not getting 5 fouls every game like Booker was in that final. So again, no, Booker's not better than Mitchell. Booker's the second best shooter. So I like Booker as the number one. I mean, not Booker. I like Mitchell as the number one option on the Jazz, but you need other guys.
I need other guys. If he's your best player, you can't win a championship.
Mitchell should arguably be. He's a top 15 player, obviously. Arguably top 10.
No.
Right on the outside. I
don't think that's arguable.
No, I think Mitchell has been disrespected his entire career for what he's done. But yeah, those are pretty much. I guess. Do you have any other concerns or teams that you think have really? Oh, the Timberwolves. The Timberwolves are the only team. The Timberwolves are but the only reason is because the Timberwolves are technically the only team in free agency who have made 0 free agency moves.
Who's the starting lineup for the Timberwolves?
Karl Anthony Towns, Anthony Edwards, D'Angelo Russell with him. And the rest are nobodies.
And the rest are nobodies. I don't know who the other two are.
And the rest are nobodies.
D'Angelo Russell? No. Karl Anthony Towns, promising. Anthony Edwards has potential, but I also don't think that he's going to be an amazing player in the league. So,
and they didn't have a draft pick this year because they gave it away to the Warriors to get D'Angelo Russell. That 14th pick was the...
Timberwolves are officially the worst team in the league, I think.
Zach, you come off a 29-win season and you don't make any moves. And you actually have good guys. Russell's a good player. We saw D'Angelo Russell when
He's a good player. That's about it, though.
He's a good, but we saw that he's all-star levels sometimes.
Yeah.
And then Karl Anthony Towns, top 3 center in the league.
Yeah.
So you're wasting him a little bit. Let's see how Anthony Edwards pans out, but still, 0 offensive moves when you probably have a lot of cap space.
Who do they even? I can't even think who else they have. Those are the only 3 players I know on the Timberwolves.
And the rest are nobodies. Okay, so that's a big disappointment for me. That's pretty much it though. Magic, I'm actually kind of disappointed. I like their draft, but I don't like their offseason because they haven't done anything.
Mo Bamba, they lost Vucevic, so
Mo
Bamba's their starter now.
Again, it's like the Magic. Bring some veterans on. You got a nice young team, but what you need is
Cole Anthony.
Again, good draft picks. They got Suggs,
Cole Anthony, Jalen Suggs, Mo Bamba,
Markelle Fultz. He's turned it up since he's been on the Magic a little bit. You're looking at if you're looking at Fultz.
I'm sorry, I can't give you the Markelle Fultz.
No, if you like this,
let me do the Markelle Fultz free throw really quick for you, and then we can call it a day. Airball.
But he's turned it up on the Magic, so I got to give him a little bit of credit. But still, I just don't think they haven't made notable moves besides their draft picks.
Yeah.
So again, in free agency, he's talking about who do you pick up off of the free agent block. Now, we're not counting draft picks here, because if it was a draft, it'd be a different story. The Warriors would be a positive. The Magic would be a positive. But as far as free agency goes, I'm kind of disappointed in those teams a little bit. So we'll see how this all pans out to the NBA season. One thing we have looking forward to before the NBA season starts, though, is the start of the NFL season, which is now officially 1 month away. So that's exciting. We're gonna have
that Cowboys
Bucks to open up the season in Tampa. So that's gonna be interesting to see if the Cowboys are gonna come out looking a little more legit than they did last year. And yeah, that's pretty much it. I want to thank you guys for tuning into this episode of Heavily Contested. If you stayed all the way to the end, again, thank you very much. I want to thank my co-host, Travis, as always.
Thank you for having me, Alex. I appreciate you, man.
Of course. If it was up to me, I would have this show by myself, but obligations, I guess. I got to babysit this guy. And, so I want to thank you guys for tuning into this episode, and we'll see you next time.